helpful to know about stuff. And you know, you guys, like I was saying, in the past, you haven't told any of your clients about oil and gas, and that's a really nice opportunity you can share with your clients.
Who else?
Yeah, we just had a whole conversation on lots of tax benefits of oil and gas, and you can actually do some really cool stuff with oil and gas in your retirement accounts as well. Very advantageous and really good for Roth conversions and then growing it into Roth. Like, amazing things.
Yeah, right now I'm raising capital for oil and gas too.
Yeah.
And they have a different strategy when you do oil and gas. You can get like focus on benefit on the tax deduction, or you focus on the big like passive income, right? Just depends on.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to go geek out on the tax opportunities, I mean, there's so many cool things with oil and gas. Like you get QBI deductions for oil and gas.
Yeah,
you get the depletion deduction on the revenue percentage. You can even use oil and gas as a really good college financing strategy, where you get this tax deduction and you gift the oil and gas equity to your children, so they get the income, but you take the deduction before you gift it. So that's a big cool thing.
Yeah, it's right. We got people coming in, and I think we put the time at 7:15 as like a starting presentation. Right now, we can just have like you are new, so we would love to know about you. You said your name is Ted, right?
Yeah. Name is Ted. Self-employed. Firm is Linwood Capital, and basically arrange a lot of debt and equity.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to sit at home, work in my whatever clothes, and some days bathrobe. Mm-hmm. But most of the transactions are real estate. And as you can probably surmise, things are a little slow right now, so I can get out of the office. But that's pretty much the long and the short of it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you are here today.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So Mark and I, we co-host this group. We started like back in which month is that? Like late of last year in November.
Yeah.
And the goal of this group is to build wealth, right? As like we name it as wealth building club. And today we have a speaker, and we like to bring like an expert from a different topic. Last time we do oil and gas, we do private credit fund, and we did like tax topic. And today we are doing self-directed retirement.
Yep.
Yeah. Quite cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we decided to hybrid because of giving people opportunity if they are living outside the state, so they can join, and we have a recording too. But many times we still want to get to know people and get connected to everyone. So that's why we want to have like people in person to join. If you know someone, feel free to invite them too.
Sure.
Yes. And I think we can just go ahead and start the presentation though.
Let's get into it. First
yes. Oh, Chris. Hi, Chris. Chris, I know his wife, and we know him too. We know each other for a very long time. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am good. So glad to see you, Chris. We have to get connected again. We haven't talked for a long time.
Been a long time.
Yeah, good to see you. I mean, to hear you. But anyway, how should we do this? Should I pull out the presentation for you? Or?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go through the slides at every point.
I'll move this closer to you so you can. But well, I am.
It's fancy technology for me. I'm not used to all this.
I'm gonna pull out the actually, I need to ask my assistant to bring this out. I don't know what is the deck is.
I'm not going to press it. Shane email it to me.
Yeah.
I can forward it back to you too. Would that help?
Yes, please. Or I can just.
Yeah. Some of the things while he's pulling that up, well, I'll just talk while you're doing what you're doing. But Patra's firm, Patra's been doing some research into the profit first stuff, which is really cool stuff. And so maybe eventually Patra will do a presentation for everyone on profit first. which is a really good methodology, especially for people who can't make sense of their books and records and what their profit margins should be and how to properly allocate things and determine what their profit should be and then back out your expenses to reach those profits, which is a very unique way of looking at your business. And especially once you're established, maybe in your earlier stages where things are very volatile, but once you have a working business, it's a very helpful tool for a lot of businesses.
Right. I mean, just a little bit of, since we just know each other, Ed and Harley.
Harley, yes.
Harley, yeah. With a little bit of background, I own a tax and accounting firm, and I started back in 2000, beginning of 2018, and many times, like I like to do some research and seek out ways to create, because we are looking at the end goal, right? We want to, it's not about just money, it's about like the lifestyle that you want to create and the life that you want to have, it basically financial freedom. And how to get to the financial freedom is you're going to have to make your business working first, right? Creating profit, then you can bring that profit into invest into alternative assets like multifamily or other asset class. So that's where the concept of coming from. And Mark is a CPA, and he focused on like advanced tax strategy, which is because like, we utilize our resources. I want to focus on like helping small business owners to create like build and understand, have a financial clarity and have a bottom line profit, right? So they can, then when they have a big profit, then Mark can come in and help on the tax strategies, and then they can use that tax saving to reinvest into.
The tricky thing is that then they're going to be poor on paper. So it's like profit first, then eliminate profit on the tax return.
You have to have some revenue first.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be careful, particularly if you're going to farm.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's when then you can use charitable strategies, so at least you show profit on the AGI side of things.
Now, that's when I need someone like you involved with borrower.
Yeah.
Theoretically, would be your client to explain things to the lender.
Yeah, one of the things I found is there's a big part of a lot of tax strategies involve depreciation, and a lot of times they'll be able to back out the bonus depreciation tax return to show that these are actually, even though they don't pay taxes, they still are profitable and capable of holding the loan.
Yeah.
That.
I found
Presentation.
Oh, perfect. Well, that and particularly with PFS that they have to put up with the lender.
We've had to explain to those things trust and
I need to share. Do I share my screen already? Yeah, I hit
If the
slide.
comments
Okay,
there you go.
There you go. Make it work.
Perfect.
Awesome. I'm gonna move it closer
It's
to you.
credible with the lender. It comes from the.
And do you want to control the slide yourself, or how?
Oh, sure. They're not going to buy.
We can also help you. So,
Perfect. We can do it right there. I can.
yeah, we can.
Can you share it?
Yes.
Oh, your state license.
No, I wanna.
But basically, you're
That's something here to make sure.
Then they're like, okay.
You saw it? Yeah, so
You see the individual has.
I mean, I have a backup recording anyway, as I can see the recording.
Yeah. And especially with real estate, it's really tricky because like a lot of these folks,
Yeah, it's here. Okay.
they may not show profit, but they refi.
Yep. All right.
So it's like
That's your lunch right now.
Awesome. You want me to start, or is there anything else you wanted to share?
Until cap rates go up. Or
I think that, let's see. So anyway, hi everyone. We're gonna start the presentation, and today I'm very excited to introduce Matthew. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but it doesn't matter.
It's Brauer.
Right. We are going to talk about self-directed account, right? Which is self-directed IRA, which is nowadays, as you know, that in the stock market, it's a lot of volatility. So how can we use your retirement account to reinvest into alternative assets? Maybe, in a multifamily, it could be oil and gas, or like self-storage or mobile home park. So that's why I brought in Matthew, who specializes in self-directed IRA account or self-directed retirement account to speak about this. And hopefully people can learn a lot and ask him many questions, as many questions as you can, because this information is going to be very helpful. All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. I appreciate it. And we'll wrap up.
Yep.
There we go. Perfect. I'll jump into that in a second, but yeah, so my goal today is to talk about self-directed retirement accounts. I feel like in this room, you guys have probably heard about them before. I would be curious even online if you guys want to chip in, but I know Hari, he's actually a client of ours. I'm with the ETRP company, and that's Chris, are you guys familiar at all with self-directed accounts? Do you have one, or just curious about your knowledge on it if you have any?
I do have one.
Okay, cool. Yeah. How are you familiar with the concept?
Yeah, so I used to use self-directed retirement account mortgages before acquiring investment properties within their IRA long years ago. Actually,
Perfect. Well, cool. Well, for you guys, it'll be a familiar concept. I think my goal today will be to provide education on just the accounts themselves and different types that are out there. I think the self-directed IRA is the most common vehicle one that you know of. There's also a solo 401k, which is what our company started with. You know, we offer both accounts. But our goal is we do two things. Obviously, we sell the product to consumers, but then we also, a big part of what we do, at least in my role, is partnering up with syndicators, fund managers, those that raise capital, to help bring education like this to investor bases, in case it's a good tool for them to use to invest in your deal. So we like to do both. So again, my goal today is to kind of provide high-level education. If you have any questions, feel free to jump in at any point. I don't want to go a 20-minute there, so feel free to jump in and ask questions whenever, but I'll go ahead and jump in now. So as you guys know, but just to say it again, the 30,000-foot view of a reason somebody would even do a self-directed account is to invest a portion or all of their retirement funds outside of the market into the alternative asset. Real estate, all venture capital, different debt funds, you name it. But that's the goal. So if somebody just wants to keep their funds in the traditional markets, big mutual funds, index funds, then a self-directed account is not going to be a good tool for them because that's just what they're designed to do. For somebody who does want to do that, here are a few reasons why it would be a good reason to choose that. The first point I think is very helpful for those that do raise capital is that a self-directed account is a great vehicle to get liquidity very quickly. So if you have a deal that you're raising for, or if you're on the investor side of things and there's something that's piqued your interest and you want to invest, say you don't want to be over leveraged or cash poor, but you have maybe an old 401k with a previous employer, you have a Roth IRA that you contributed to for a decade, but you want to take that maybe out of the traditional markets, take advantage of it, excuse me, and invest it. You can roll over those funds from your traditional account. When I say traditional, I'm speaking about 401k plans with an old employer. I think probably that's kind of your case there. Or in that IRA plan that is just in the market, moving that over to a self-directed account. Again, in this room, you guys are probably aware of this concept, but I'd like to again reiterate that moving from an old plan to a new self-directed account, that's not taxable. So you go from IRA to IRA, they call it a transfer. You move from 401k to a self-directed IRA, same thing, called a rollover. So there's no taxes on that type of event, which is great. So you can talk to an investor and confidently say, hey, you got 50 grand, 100 grand in an old employer plan. You can move that over to the self-directed vehicle, not pay taxes on that transfer. Lo and behold, you get 100 grand, in your pocket, essentially, when I say pocket, the new plan in 2 weeks' time, and you can make that investment. So it's a great way to get access to cash in a pretty short amount of time. Secondly, we've already really hit on this, but you choose a self-directed account for diversification. So rather than just being solely limited to the capital markets, you have the ability to invest in alternative assets. The third point here that I feel like is very important for a lot of account holders is, and I've felt this more over the last probably year or two, is just having control over the assets in the account. So even in a self-directed plan, you can still diversify into the market. So you can still get a brokerage account tied to the self-directed plan, keep a percentage of your account in that type of investment vehicle, but you have more control in a self-directed vehicle. We'll get into kind of the nuances of the difference between the self-directed IRA and the solo 401k when it comes to control. But at the end of the day, you have far more control rather than leaving it in the hands of an advisor or just putting it in a mutual fund that it's set for years.
Question for you.
Yeah.
So that control is not just like the psychological aspect of being able to choose your own investments rather than going with a brokerage and having your set of like target retirement date funds and stocks and bonds and that kind of thing. But there's actually some tactical benefits. I think there's some tax strategies or some other things that some of us know about could be leveraged here, where that control can actually mean better overall returns as well.
Oh yeah, sure could.
Oh, I was saying, I know Zafora, I know Edwin's interested in crypto.
Yeah.
Well, you can invest in crypto with your Roth IRA and never pay taxes on it.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Yeah.
Or you want a tax deduction, you put your money into one of these accounts, reduce your taxes, and then invest in crypto.
That's a good point too. So even the tax advantage part of that, the great thing about a self-directed account is, again, we'll talk about the nuances here in a second, but say you're self-employed, or you mentioned you're self-employed, with a solo 401k, if you are self-employed, the contribution limit this year is $70,000. So if you want to go ahead and shell up or put away 70 grand for that at a later date, or do the Roth method, and that still applies to self-directed accounts. So you can either put money away, defer that tax to a later date, or you can go ahead and pay taxes now and have that tax advantage growth, like I said, whether it's crypto or another asset class. All of the returns go back to a Roth vehicle, so you don't pay taxes.
How about those of us with natural platinum highlights over age 50?
There you go. Think about that contribution increase there. Yeah. I was going to say, once you're over age 50, they change them every year. I think it's up to 7,000 over age 50 for the solo 401k, and then the SDIRA is 8,000 this year over age 50. So I'm going to keep moving forward here. So this is where I'll probably spend the majority of my time, is the differences in the self-directed IRA and the solo 401k. So these are really the two types of self-directed accounts. I'll start on the self-directed IRA side. It is more commonly known just industry-wide, I feel, compared to the solo 401k. And I think it's just because there is very low barrier to entry for a self-directed IRA. As you can see, open to anybody with earned income, and that's really the only prerequisite mark that you have to check in order to qualify for a plan like this. You meet that requirement, you're good to go. You can sign up for a self-directed IRA. In that, just know that it features just like, or it functions just like a normal IRA. So you can make the contribution limit there, 7,000 if you're under age 50, over up to 8,000. And then you can roll over old retirement accounts into that self-directed IRA vehicle to then invest into those alternative assets. For both plans, what we see most commonly done, this isn't the way you have to do it, but I feel like it's most common is, when you're going to invest in some kind of debt fund or syndication, usually a minimum is 25,000, 50,000, even 100,000 to get into a deal. So most people have either worked for an employer for a few years, left, they've got a decent chunk in that old 401k plan, they move it into one of these vehicles, and then they can also contribute income moving forward to those plans. So that's the self-directed IRA side. The solo 401k side is where I'd like to maybe shine some light on today. Again, at the EQRP, we've been around for about 10 years now, and we offer the solo 401k exclusively for probably the first 6-7 years. Just because, in my view, I think it is the premier self-directed vehicle. However, there's a caveat to it that I'll get into here in a minute. But as you can see, contribution limit is literally 10x than what it is in an IRA. Inside of the solo 401k, you have some unique features. So you can take out a personal loan. You can take up to $50,000 out of that account to use for personal expenses. I've seen people use it for purchasing a vehicle, to kids' college tuition, to just random expenses around their primary residence. You can use a personal loan for anything. Obviously, you're making payments back to the solo 401k. You're allowed to take out a loan. Another key benefit to the solo 401k, so if we'll go back to the IRA side, obviously many of us are familiar with Roth IRAs and also pre-tax traditional IRAs. On the IRA side, those have to be two different accounts. And two different accounts means two different fees, two different asset under management. You have to give twice the accounts. In a solo 401k, you can actually have one plan entity that has two groups of money underneath it, being pre-tax and Roth funds. So we call it account consolidation, meaning you just have both types of money in the one account. The caveat comes down to, in order to qualify for a solo 401k, you do have to be either a business owner or self-employed. That's the caveat there. That plan is designed by the IRS to be for somebody who's in business for themselves.
Hey, Matt,
It's a capacity.
jump in real quick. So to touch on that.
Yep.
So as a loan originator in the state of Georgia, I can't be 1099.
Okay.
So W-2 right now.
Mhm.
But to be self-employed, to be considered self-employed,
Yeah.
would I have to rely on another business showing income what's the technicality there?
That's a great question. For somebody like you can't be 1099. I'd say 1099 is maybe the majority, but there's plenty of instances where if you have like an S corp, you're the sole owner, you have no employees, that's also being self-employed. You just have the S corp as the company that sponsors the solo 401k plan. So I'll back out a little bit. All 401k plans are what they call employer-sponsored plans.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some type of entity that is sponsoring this plan, and so the solo 401k in a lot of cases is somebody who's 1099. They themselves are an individual. They have an LLC. They can sponsor that type of plan. It should be 1099 income. But if you, in your case, you have an LLC, it's an S corp, and you get a W-2 payment from that LLC that you're the sole owner of. That considers to be self-employed income in this situation. You choose those W-2 earnings.
Yeah.
Great point of clarification, though. I do like to say, because some people see that $70,000 number and they get really excited.
Yeah.
It does come back to, I wish I had a good visual for this, but again, there's that company that's going to sponsor the solo 401k, and we have many clients that are full-time W-2. They work at Google or Microsoft or Google, but they're high earners. You can't contribute W-2 income you get from this company out here into the solo. This company here that sponsors the solo 401k, the income that they pay you is the income you contribute to the solo 401k.
And then Matthew, under that scenario, W-2, I take yours as compliance reasons.
It is. And Georgia is one of those weird states where, if I were somewhere else, yeah, there's kind of still.
But they have you probably in their benefit system as well.
They do.
Okay. So under that scenario, would there be aggregate limits for total contribution to solo K, correct? Because it would be the W-2 employer plus what he could do. He could cap out at $70,000, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So if we're saying him across the board, so that you are W-2 with another employer already currently. Yeah. So if you contribute to that company's 401k, and if there was another entity in your situation where it made sense to also establish a solo 401k, you're correct. You can't do 70,000 to both 401k plans. That limit is per individual across all. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be an aggregate limit across the board regardless of how many defined contribution plans.
Yeah, and that's the same with the IRA. Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you're an employer in the Inflation Reduction Act, like 22, there's all these tax credits and incentives to create retirement accounts for your employees.
Mm-hmm.
In some instances where, looking at some scenarios where like pretty much the government's paying for the match on these 401ks up to a good chunk. Something that I'm looking into right now for myself and my clients. So lots of cool stuff out there.
Yeah.
I'd love to connect with you on that. I have another business owner friend who's looking to do that for their employees.
Yeah, we're going to be diving into that stuff pretty soon.
Awesome. Last thing I'll mention, it's kind of inside this conversation, maybe get to that point too, is the solo 401k plan is designed for one person. It could be also a husband and a wife in that type of plan, but it's not designed for a company with many employees. That would be what's considered a safe harbor 401k plan. However, we have a company that we work with. It's not really us. We partner with them. But you have a safe harbor 401k plan for the business that allows participants to invest in alternative assets. It's a little bit more of a, I guess, more complicated process because there's discrimination factors that come into play. And so we have a TPA that we work with that ensures that obviously everybody's in compliance. There's a lot more record keeping that goes into it, but it is a possibility.
What was the title of that one? Safe harbor?
Yeah, safe harbor.
Just safe harbor.
Mm-hmm. If you Google that term, the safe harbor term is can do some research on it if you want. Cool. I'll keep moving along here. There we go. Just get- Perfect. I touched on this a minute ago too, but again, I'll reiterate. So both types of self-directed plans. You can have the tax deferred strategy, which is commonly just called the traditional account. So that's pre-tax income. You contribute to the plan and you're deferring that taxable event till later. You can do that same structure in the self-directed plan, or you can do the tax-free or the Roth option. So you can contribute Roth income into the plan so you pay tax now and not pay later. That honestly is a great, it's good to work with the CPA as always on that kind of strategy, but I think it's amazing in a self-directed plan if you're going to invest in a deal where you expect very significant payout. You can, obviously, if you're investing Roth money into that deal where you expect a really high return, the nice part is that it's all going to come back. So you pay taxes on it once going into the plan, or you've done a Roth conversion at some point, and then all of those gains are tax-free. Again, the reducing taxable income portion would come through if you didn't want to do the pre-tax contribution to reduce your income. It's a great strategy in certain cases. This last part's a little bit unique, but I think it's very helpful for those that are multifamily, self-storage, that kind of asset class, especially if you're raising capital. I'm talking to somebody on Monday who's a multifamily syndicator. He's a client of ours, and he does a great job of educating his client base on it. I think it's helpful to know when you raise money and somebody wants to use a self-directed account, is that there's a tax. So if you invest in any kind of asset that is debt leveraged, so I usually just use the example of multifamily. Usually give a high loan value. If you invest in that multifamily project with self-directed IRA, and again, there's debt financing here, when this eventually pays out to that IRA account holder, they can be subject to what's called UBIT tax, so unrelated business income tax. I'm not going to get into it's a tiered tax. It can be a little bit complicated to actually quantify your tax bill, but it can be really substantial. So the highest rate of UBIT tax is 37%. And so it can add up pretty quickly for that account holder, especially because from what I've seen, many investors go into that situation where they're like, I'm excited. I rolled over my old company's 401k plan into my self-directed IRA. I invested in this multi-family project. Woohoo, like this is awesome. And then all of a sudden they get a tax bill for $10,000 plus because the IRA company may not have told them that they could be subject to UBIT tax. Play out that same exact scenario in the solo 401k plan. These solo 401ks, what they call UDFI exempt, so unrelated debt financed income. So if you're investing in that same project, high loan to value, you don't experience the UDFI triggered UBIT tax. So that's in
that. I mean, it's a retirement plan, same thing, but one you can eliminate the UBIT, the other one you have to pay. Why is that, Mark? You know?
I don't know why they made that decision because to me, an IRA and a solo, I mean, they're both tax deferred vehicles, so I don't know why the law treats one different than the other. That would be, you'd have
A lot
to,
more
Yeah.
It's the distribution of non-taxable income. If it's coming through a tax pass-through entity, and I had this issue, like an LLC, not a C Corp. C Corps pay after tax. LLCs are tax pass-through.
yeah.
My understanding is IRS is bringing everything pari passu. They're not going to let you receive tax-free from a business. They want it to be taxable income distributed like a dividend. That's what they're doing. That's what I've been told.
Yeah, what I never understood is why they treat the IRA different from the 401k because they're both essentially, to me, they're like the same thing tax wise, except for that one area which is when there's debt.
Yeah, I think it's the investments though that 401ks get involved in general. You know, just employer plans, etc. Imagine if you're the IRS sorting out that mess every year continually. Yeah, they probably
what I've heard,
slack.
which I don't know how much there is to it, but because 401ks are company plans, you've got these massive institutions that are just lobbying heavily for their incentives to 401k.
Yeah.
Whereas the IRA, it's an individual account who's going to really lobby for that. And technically, why the difference is there is an IRA, I think, is in section 408 of the tax code, 401k in section 4. So they're technically written in different codes. Tax difference comes into play. But anyway, yeah, I
I have a
don't.
question.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody who's in W-2 employment and they want to start using SDI Solo 401k, they're not really sure, would they be able to go to a Solo 401k and avoid this UBIT issue?
Yes.
Without, like, would they have to create their own LLC, or how would that work?
So that they absolutely can. It does come back to, they don't have to have a form LLC, but because that's a good question. There's no technical like minimum requirement that the IRS sets for how much income you have to earn as a sole proprietor or as an LLC that you're the sole owner of. There's no minimum requirement there, but you want to be putting in some kind of substantial business activity to make that qualification. So if it's a legitimate side hustle that you're working on, even if it's not that profitable, that business activity would qualify. That's great if you are actually generating revenue. But that's the requirement, is you have to be doing that activity absolutely in the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
In order to open it, or kind of as like an ongoing?
It is an ongoing thing. Yeah. Because if you think through the life of that plan, the employer has to be active in some capacity, and then it would also give the account holder the ability to contribute from it. So they have that, like, kind of, if you play that scenario, you almost have a ghost entity sponsoring this plan, you can't contribute. The only thing that you would be able to do is access old 401k money to move into this kind of plan, but that business has. Yeah. Any other questions on that part?
That's pretty clear.
Cool. Perfect. Try to almost do this, okay. Here's just it's a different visual, but same concept there. So eligibility on the self-directed IRA side, that's the way I like to think about it. In self-directed IRA, nearly anybody just got a little bit of earned income, and then you can, at the end of the day, in both plans, you have the ability to access old money if that applies to you. You have an old 401k, an old IRA, you want to move that over into this kind of vehicle, and you want to invest in an alternative asset, you can get that done in that type of vehicle. On the solo 401k side, you just have to have that box checked in order to qualify, but they give you the same functionality at the end of the day. Solo 401k just has a couple other features that the self-directed IRA does.
Is all the money subject to UDFI on leverage?
It's on the, so if we go back to the multifamily asset example, say 70% loan to value, 70% of the IRS profits would be subject to UBIT, but then at that point, UBIT, like, don't quote me on this, but like, I think the lowest tier of UBIT is 20%, and then it goes up to 37%. So it's like 70% of your earnings that fall into those different categories. So it's a little complicated to calculate, but I did that.
It does. I think the government wants to, people getting out of the market and buying real estate with their 401k and rollover savings. They're not. All makes sense, but
yeah. And I've seen, when I say I've heard about, so I'm not in those weeds, but I know people that do invest through a self-directed IRA into assets that will incur a UBIT tax bill, and they might invest in the oil and gas, do something to offset it. I don't know the details of how that works, but something to work with pretty savvy CPAs and figure out a solution. I think I like to worry about it, but there's probably some strategies to maybe not totally negate that tax bill, maybe ways to offset it. So yeah, there's that one short here.
And well, if you're using real estate, at least until you have an exit, you have so much depreciation, it's unlikely that you're going to have a profit on that retirement account. So even though you're leveraging debt and collecting distributions, you're unlikely to pay tax, the UBIT tax. On the exit, that's a different story.
Yeah. Great point there. I see most of it on the exit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reason why people use their retirement plan to invest into real estate because of the liquidity, right? But most of the time, like maybe they have a fund in their retirement account, but they don't have it outside. That's why they have to do that route. But if they have like both way, they have cash outside retirement plan. I think that they can get a lot of benefit from investing into real estate already.
Do you see people partnering with their solo 401ks where, as long as you don't do like that, there's a certain level of elbow grease you can't put in your rentals. But let's say I'm investing passively, or I'm investing I'm not doing all the property management and all the sweat equity on the rental property. I can you see partner with their self-directed 401ks on
Like the individual partnering
with their own
retirement accounts. I've seen it. There's it's kind of a gray area, honestly, just from what I know.
I've seen some very creative proposals from our clients that didn't pass the smell test at the end of the day. And I said, that's very creative, or they have like these circular, what if I give the money to this guy and to that guy? And all of a sudden it winds up bad.
Yeah, we get calls like that, and for me, my personality is always kind of caution. I think because there's a clause about self-dealing. So you can't use your retirement account to buy a primary residence, to fund your business, do things like that. You can't pay yourself from your retirement account. So
Trying to expense to a guy right now.
yeah. So a partner in the LLC, I have seen people do it at their own discretion, and haven't heard at least about any consequences that have come from that. So I feel like that's a little bit of a gray area. If you got some family counsel tells you to go for it, by all means, it's your account, so you can do what you want to do, but there could be a penalty for that.
Sometimes you could have like checkbook control over some of these investments, where it's like you do a little more than you think on some of these investments, where you can pick the property, screen the tenants through. So I never know exactly where that line is or how clearly defined it is.
Yeah, I think for me, there's like the two big buckets I look at is IRS, and it ain't easy on this part of this. Is there's disqualified persons and disqualified investments. The disqualified investments are nobody really wants to do. It's like collectibles, art, it's alcoholic beverages, some things like this. Barbie dolls. Yeah, no. That one got high performance. But so that being one, and then disqualified persons. That's usually like we call it your vertical lineage. So you can't use your retirement account to invest for parent, grandparent, kid, but it's where you can invest for siblings are disqualified. So people love to partner with their siblings in creative ways. I've seen that.
Yeah, they pay well too.
Yeah, there you go.
I do that all the time.
But on partnering, I think it's something cool. Plenty of ways to partner if you want to, like if my company and ours, say we see a deal and want to partner in, about 50-50, we can create a third an LLC out here with 50-50 partners in it, add equal amounts of capital, go acquire an asset. You can do things like that.
Question about partnering, maybe this is more commingling when you're using your retirement account, self-directed retirement account money and your own personal money. I know you got to keep the proportions identical throughout the life of the investment for income and expenses. This is going to be a tax question. Does the IRS look at the end of the year at just what are the aggregate percentages, or for any contributions you make? If there's a cash call on an investment, or you're going to invest cash in a property, must you on every expense separate it, say 60-40, or will the IRS just look at the end of the year, what did you pay for expenses as the 60?
Well, I can't speak for when there's a retirement account as a partner, but in general with partnerships, there's a ton of flexibility where you can allocate more income to one partner than the other, or one partner gets more expenses than another. So there's a lot of flexibility in partnerships. I don't know if there's any nuance and additional ruling if one of the partners is your retirement account. Because now I do know some people doing some very creative things where you have an entity that's based in Puerto Rico and then you shift. So, but with retirement accounts, I've never done it, so I don't want to mislead anybody.
Yeah, and as we're talking about it more, I feel like recently you talked to people that have done the partnership, 50-50 split between themselves and their accounts.
Yeah.
And generally, they are doing everything. It's not like that. Okay. It's a pretty equal split.
Because my only concern personally would be an IRS audit. They say, hey, can you show us a few documents? We just want to spot check a couple of things.
Yeah.
Of course, we know they don't ask the question unless they think there's something there.
Yeah.
Do I have to show, hey, new roof went on the house, 60% was my retirement account, 40% is me. Yeah. But if I had to re-roof the house, have some plumbing work done, and have it all painted, are they going to look at that as the aggregate that needs to be 60-40? You know, I just paid the roofer and paid the plumber, and the rest of it was the 40.
I think I know of a group that actually does like to get the money into the Roth. They do like a special partnership allocation where their 401k and Roth form a partnership, but they allocate all the profits into the Roth. It's interesting, but I also don't know if it's legal. These guys are very creative, and they're the people who like to do things on the edge. And sometimes we have to be very, very careful in who we put our clients in front of because we could risk losing our licenses, and sometimes we need people who eventually go to jail. So I don't know. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying these guys will, but it was something on the edge. Sometimes you come across ideas that are on the edge of, or they're just very creative, and it's hard to tell how compliant they're being with these.
Yeah, creative is a bad word.
Yeah.
Just we can't find a way to record it.
Yeah. But sometimes you'll come across something you're like, wow, that's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Cool. And this is just kind of an example of all three types of accounts. Investor A is just your like typical W-2 American, contributing, maxing out the company 401k, but obviously the only assets you're really able to invest in mutual funds, maybe single stocks if you're lucky, that sort of thing. Investor B using sole 401k, they're using the employee contribution and the employer contribution to max out at $70,000, investing in real estate, private equity, and then they're getting rid of that human tax because they have that UDFI exemption in this full 401k. And then lastly, the investor C using self-directed IRA, still able to contribute, sure it's a lower amount, and you can make that contribution raw pre-tax, depending on your strategy, and then rolled over an old retirement account to get a pool of money to go play with in the alternative investment market, and then investing in syndications. That's kind of an aside, but I thought those are the two most common transactions that at least we see people make in a self-directed account is, in case this is helpful for the room, but, I think for asset classes, even like single family, sure, you can do all of that inside of a retirement account, but it's so easy to be passive in a syndication or in private lending, give it up capital, let somebody else take the reins on it. Whereas with single family, you mentioned it earlier, but the IRS has funny rules. You can't, so if you buy a single family property in your Airbnb, you can't stay there. You can't do any sweat equity on the property. You got to pay all the contractors out of the retirement account. Every expense comes from that vehicle. You have to get a recourse loan. You can't do conventional lending. Collateral has to be dwelling, not the actual, you don't want your personal assets to be at stake. So there's no caveats to go and things like that. So those are the two most common you see, unless you're ready to go jump into crypto, precious metals as a hedge.
Question on the UBIT tax there, is that paid from the IRA capital or from the personal?
We've never seen it for any of our clients, UB tax. So I don't know. That's a good question.
I would imagine. I was speculating here, but I feel like it can probably be either.
Imagine your retirement hits with UBIT tax, but they don't even have the cash to cover the UBIT tax.
No. That's why I think
It's unlikely though, because you'd have to have profit. Well, I guess they reinvest it.
Yeah, they move money out. I think the other. That's fine. Okay, cool.
I think that
Well, it's never happened in your experience.
No, we know it's very rare.
next there have to be distribution. So in theory, you have the cash. They're not taxing you 110%.
Out of the
Industry out of the account.
Well, it's going to be untaxed income, and that's what the unit is. It doesn't, or has to get rid of those investments. But yeah, the cash was in there, so the accountant would say, "Hey, you owe $5,000 a unit." All right, IRA pays it.
Yeah. From my knowledge, Jeff, I've been basically creative stuff right there. You don't have to worry about it. If you are in the debt fund, you are the debt. Tax from that. I'm aware. So there's other ways to get around it. So doing private lending can be a way to get around it. So how you basically do that.
And there was a period of time I was recommended to set up a C corp as a blocker for you. How that works, I have no idea.
That's good enough. It's interesting.
People are working. I can
blocker, in my account refer to it as a blocker corp, a C corp filing, maybe an LLC that files a C corp. That is paid, it's inside the IRA, blocks the yield.
Because the C Corp can take on debt and then pays dividends to the retirement account. The retirement account is directly liable to taking on any debt. It's the C Corp that takes on the debt. And then,
Yeah, it was complex.
by any chance, was your accountant John Heyer? He was the only one who I've seen explain that. He's popular on social media.
Did you, this was alternative, did you use your retirement funds for like a small business startup or were you even?
No, it was a small business startup.
Like seriously, was it a Rob's plan?
No, it was not the Rob's. That I can tell you. It was just straight out outright purchase of shares. And then we were having the distributions come into those that invested taxable got a check. My IRA received the distribution that came with it.
Yeah, Matthew, if we have about 10 minutes.
That's perfect. I was gonna say, I'm actually, I'll take that because of that, but we kind of touched on that. It's FAQ time, so if anybody has questions, feel free to ask, but I thought.
Can you go back to that one slide?
Oh, yeah.
Fields on it.
Yeah.
And also, can you share these slides?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that'd be great.
I had a quick question. I've been wondering for a while now. So I know that the 401ks are more expensive to manage than the IRAs. The only reason why I can think of why one would want to invest in their IRA instead of a solo 401k, because you could roll them into either accounts, is just that the IRA is cheaper. Is that the only reason? Because the 401k, you don't pay UBIT and you can borrow from it. So with those two advantages, I would think the only reason why you would take an IRA over a 401k as your investment retirement account is just because you don't pay fees. Is there something else I'm missing here, and why?
What's funny actually about that is, at least in my experience, I feel like the IRA can be more expensive than the solo 401k, only because, so the IRA side of things, this is going to get a little technical, but on IRAs have to have custodians, so there has to be a trust company holding the assets. There's asset under management fees, transaction fees, and all that can add up, pile up. On the solo 401k side, in our structure, the account holder is also the trustee. So the trustee basically takes over the custodial power. So you don't have that custodian taking out all those fees. Basically that trustee has more responsibility. We as a company, we support that, but anyway, so with that in mind, I think fees can add up more on this side with an IRA. To the solo 401k, really, your fees are limited to plain documents are a one-time thing, and then we'll have a checking account. At least in our structure, we cover all that for our members. We just do flat fees for sign up, and then each year annually thereafter. So we'll do 5,500 filings, checking account set up, all that. But generally, like I think industry-wide, the solo 401k falls into that structure, which is usually a one-time fee and then one-time annual fees. And then IRAs, if you're working directly with a trust company, it's like, your setup fee, and then if you have 4 assets in your account, you're going to pay this, or if you've got 10, you're going to pay this. And like I think, Equity Trust is probably the biggest IRA company out there. I think you can have like 10 assets. Your annual fee is like $2,000.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. So if anybody wants to, that's like our scheduling link. So you can scan the QR code or go to wallstreetplay.com. That's my link, so you can talk in more detail for any other questions you guys have. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, cool.
What about the LLC IRA?
Yep, that's a way to, and we actually follow that structure as well. So it's nice because, so the IRA itself can't have a checking account, LLC can.
Yeah.
And so as far as the IRA, so IRA company here owns, the only asset on the IRA's books is the LLC. And you roll over your funds into IRA funds LLC. Right. So all the trust company manages this one asset that they ask you to list the LLC. So yeah, which is the LLC. Yeah. And then they have the checking account that could invest in 10 assets, but you're paying out there.
Yeah, I sent them a spreadsheet of the asset values.
Yep.
Of the December bank account statement.
Yep.
For the cash.
Exactly.
That's all they need.
Yeah. That's a great way to still get checkbook control. So you can have that in either plan, just the IRA, you get all other stuff.
Well, also knock down my fees tremendously.
Absolutely.
So you can sidestep working with fiduciary
They're still in place.
Yeah, they still have to be there.
Yeah, but the nice- Yeah.
Single member, and they have to be the single member.
Yeah.
Your IRA has to be the same.
Yeah, because like if you don't do the LLC and you have funds in the IRA, you're just probably gonna add more and you get. I had that structure for a little bit. Your delays are unreal. You can request to invest in said asset, and then one time they told me between 10 and 21 days your fund will be spent. Well, it's like, all right, that's ridiculous. So we can get the LLC check.
Yeah, I only do lending out of my IRA. Okay. And I've got the LLC with checkbook control. So, like the last one, you were talking about lending to siblings. My brother, back in November, wanted to put a pool in his backyard. He lives in Florida. And he calls me, he's like, hey, I can get a better price if I pay the guy now, put down the deposit, have him do the work, it's off season, versus doing it in the spring when I refi the house, will you lend me the money? So I just cookie cutter promissory note, have him sign that. And I just informed the bank, wire transfer to his bank account, X number of dollars. So I got the note for the IRS purposes. They know it's a legit loan with legit terms. And then out it goes. Because I had control. I could do that literally 24 hours after he emailed me. Signed promise.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, I had to go through the custodian, they got to check it in, do a few things, admin process, and then the wire transfer. Fortunately, that was not time sensitive. But if it was, I've done some time sensitive lending before. Someone was facing foreclosure. I'm good at lending money at very high rates. I'm even better at collecting it. But their property was going to go up on the foreclosure steps in probably one business day. And the next morning before the auction, the wire had hit. Okay. To bring everyone in compliance.
I think that's one of the coolest things you can do, and especially if it's a Roth, like tax-free,
Which it is.
high interest, like hard money lending from a Roth.
level there.
That stuff's cool.
And we had a guy who, so share, he made, I think he rolled over like $100,000. He made 27 grand. Like kind of made like this story.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. It was all private lending. Great way.
You got a lot of flexibility. Because I've done profit participation loans.
Like flippers and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I'll just say, look, you're paying me 3 and 12. You got 3 up front, 12 on the juice. And I'm taking 25 to 40% of the profits on the back end. You don't have any cash in this deal. This offer is on the table until 5 p.m. tomorrow. Sign or goes.
Correctly so, because you're taking on all the risk at
Yeah.
that point. They
I'm
can't-
the financial
Do you
back. It was within 6 months. I got
On virtual, do you have equation, Kim, Kelly, Amanda, about self-directed IRA? That's good. Okay. So quick question. So, you can open self-directed IRA just like a bank account, right? You can open as many as you want, or you can only do one at a time. And how long does it take to, if anyone who interested in working with you, how long does it take to from the day that they get started until they can fund it and purchase invest into
From startup to funding, it's usually 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, maybe 10 to 14 business days. You technically aren't limited, I don't believe, on how many IRAs you can set up. It wouldn't make sense from like a fees perspective to have a bunch. Obviously, you can have one IRA with many assets. So the most IRAs I've seen somebody have, they've got Roth, the traditional, like an inherited IRA, they got lucky and got some extra money. And so outside of that, there wouldn't be a reason to have more than that. Because you can't contribute $7,000 to all of them. You're capped at that amount per person across all.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. So
Yep.
2 weeks. And if someone wants to, because sometimes the deal, you have to fund it very quickly or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
Is it the 2 weeks? It's the fastest, or they can expedite it?
Oh yeah, it can be done quicker. I've done there. In maybe 4 days. You gotta be pretty lucky. You gotta get lucky with who has the whole account, and then things have to move pretty quickly. But we get plenty of calls. We're like, hey, I've got a deal in a week. I've got to make it happen. And so we'll try our best, but we just like to say 2 weeks just so that everybody's clear. Because we don't want somebody to miss somebody out. That's the only thing that they have in mind. So the sooner the better if you're eyeing something to get one set up. But
Got it. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
And we have your information. We can post it because this is a recording. We can send out. We have your information.
Perfect.
That if anyone interested to talk to you more about
Yep.
self-directed retirement account, they can reach out to you directly.
Yep, it's perfect. I was gonna say, use the URL, scan the QR code, fill out our books. It's basically nice. If you walk with it.
Yes.
Yep.
And then we will send out. If you can send me the PDF, so I can send out for people who
Yeah.
register online.
Absolutely. Yep. Send you the PDF and then I'll, email you. Perfect.
Cool.
Yes.
And
All right.
if you guys, one more thing. So for you guys, if you're looking for a cool thing to share with your clients, I mean, even if you make too much to defer your taxes with an IRA, you still put your money in the IRA and then roll it into a Roth. Yep. And now it grows tax free. It's like, why not? I mean, it's only going to be 14 grand between the husband and wife, right? That's how much it is. So, but it's like, that's a neat little thing to add.
But you can do like backdoor Roth, right? If you have traditional, you do backdoor Roth and then you
Exactly.
open the self-directed or solo 401k Roth or whatever.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. So,
And then fast forward 10, 20 years.
think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it totally makes sense when you do like those private credit fund to invest because it's more like a debt. So you have to pay tax on that. But on the real estate side, if you invest outside of the self-directed IRA, you can still get benefit out. I guess right now it's at 1:04, so we can just turn off the Zoom then. And if you have any question, you can reach out to Matthew directly or reach out to me.
You gotta give a call to action to the people watching the recording.
Okay, you can do it.
Well, where should they go if they want to learn more? I think we already gave them a call to action, actually.
Yeah, and or you can also, if you are interested in, attending more workshop for our future workshop, we do it on the monthly basis. We always bring expert in different area. You can go to www.wellbuildingclub.us/workshop to register for the new event.
So get on the list. You person listening on YouTube, you're missing out.
Yeah.
Tell them.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.
Bye-bye.